hear me. I hope y'all can hear me. Okay. Um, Hi. Uh, Everything is fucked. It's okay though, because things are set up now and we're gonna fucking solder. And I say we because my lab partner will be joining me in a little bit. Some backstory, I guess. Soldering is so you take some solder, right? Which I am trying to. In this case, I'm not going to be using this today because this is for this is a different kind of solder than I need. But you take a device such as this, which is a hot stick, and you heat up. There are little contacts around these points. You see those little circles? What you want to do is you want to heat up the circle as well as the wire that's being pushed through the circle, so that when this solder, which has a not very, but like a comparatively low melting point, when it touches those two things, it will melt and bond to them rather than like the other hot thing. The goal is to get this onto those and have them bond together. Most solder is conductive. You don't want to rely on it as a conductor, though. It is bad form and also like a good way to have a device that's not going to work relatively quickly. So yes, that is what soldering is. The purpose of it is to secure wires in between contact points. Today, I'm going to have Rin solder some headers onto this old board, which are just like, a bunch of little pins all stuck together that are going to go in these slots for nefarious purposes later. I'm also going to have her desolder some things. Desoldering is basically you heat up the part that is soldered, and then using a device such as this, which is a rapid suction cup basically, you put it right next to the part that you are heating up, and then when it becomes liquid, boop, it sucks it away if you're lucky. So yeah, I'm going to have her do that so that we can take some parts off of this board, which I'm realizing now is not fully in view. So we're just going to quench in some things. This is the soldering iron station. It has a temperature control because it's going to matter for certain things. I don't want to turn it too high and like fry out a low voltage circuit. These are relatively low voltage, which usually means they don't have the highest heat tolerance. So, like I mentioned, you're touching the soldering iron tip to the little contact points here, as well as the pin or wire that's going in there. That heat is going to transfer to the rest of the metal that is hidden underneath this layer of printed circuit board color. I don't actually know what any of that nomenclature is, but I'm sure you've seen like the little circuit board designs. I don't know if that's showing up on camera there, but you can see there are tiny little pathways that are hidden just underneath the blue coat. So those will heat up as well because heat will just travel directly down that pathway of metal, just like the electrons do. And copper, which I believe that these circuit boards are printed copper, is a pretty good conductor of heat and electricity. So, you don't want to turn the temperature up too high for those reasons because you can damage the rest of the board, especially if it's a low resistance or low voltage board. Now, I think that this board is let's see. I don't see. Yeah, it's a 5 volt. This is a 5 volt board, which means yeah, it can take a little bit more than the 3 volts that I legit thought this was. Doesn't matter. These are boards that have been. I suspect them of not working. This is a well, don't worry about it. It goes on the back of a little LCD screen. It's called an I2C essentially. An IC squared, or is it I and then an I squared? Whatever. I don't remember what it stands for, so it doesn't really matter. Anyway, yeah. So I'm gonna keep this at a relatively low, but still like fast enough to not get completely boring on stream temperature, and walk Rin through that. The rest of this station, obviously, there's a little thing that holds the solder there. This is not on, by the way, otherwise I wouldn't be able to do this without screaming. This is a sponge. When this is heated up, well, okay, I'll get to this other stuff first. So this is the tip cleaner, right? It's got little coils of metal here, and at the bottom of it there's some sort of gel-like material, name of which I forget. But the purpose of these two things is if you have excess solder on your tip, because, you know, nobody's perfect and life is pain, and so you've gotten some on your tip instead of, it's not really a big deal. You want to get the solder off, otherwise it starts like carbonizing and looking brassy at the edge of the tip, making it harder to transfer heat. You dip it in here, and that just kind of pulls it all off. And I believe the material at the bottom is, oh, I can't remember the name of it, but it's like, it's a type of like goop that, well, it's a semi-solid colloid sort of thing, like a really, really dense jelly. I am still having trouble with how to talk. Anyway, really thick jello, and it has a really low melting point, and it gets on tip right then, which pulls the solder, the melted solder, out of it and into the stuff on the bottom where these little stringy things pull the rest of it off. It's pretty cool, and that was an unnecessary amount of detail, but I am stalling for time. Then we have this sponge. After you've done that, you kind of cleans the tip off. It gets that nice and bright and shiny. I have to put water on that before I forget and burn a hole in the sponge. And that's the basic premise there. This thing, obviously a little metal coil, it just holds the soldering iron. Don't know why I bothered to tell you that. Hey! This is my hands. Because I don't have my lab partner here with me, because she's doing something. I don't know. I don't pay attention. I will need, I mean, even if, you know, they were here, I'm not going to have somebody that I don't hate hold a thing that I'm going to be putting heat on. The idea behind this is put what it is that you want to solder, and ideally, if you're holding like a wire in place or whatnot, oh god, it's always so hard. They're not gonna go anywhere once you set them in place, but like, oh boy, they're hard to set in place. So got your little setup over there, and the example wire. So you got your little wire here, but you can't hold it in the hole because it's not gonna like automatically stay. That's why we're soldering it. So you have this, hold it there, everything's in place, and then boop-a-doop, you've inhaled toxic fumes, which reminds me, masks will be involved, legit ones. I don't have respirator or anything. The garage is entirely open. I don't know if you can see that from this angle. I doubt it. And I've got 2 fans going, so just like kind of air tunneling Get that fucking lead out of here. Oh yeah, did I mention there's lead? Also, there's this. It's probably not going to help very much, but, you know, we work with what we got and try not to get any